Hello everyone and welcome for another video of Love and Wargames. In this video we are going to cover the Ergun Battlefleet Set for the Chinese. So it is the sister ship of the Heilong, another variant that could be built. And we will first do this unboxing part, having a look at the sprues, having a look at the resin. And here is the Heilong. We already had a Heilong Battlefleet Set. The thing that is going to be interesting are the sprues. Actually, well, everything is interesting because the sprues are new and we have all these new Chinese cruisers. As the time I record the unboxing, I do not know what all of those do, but when I will record the second part of the video, so you will all see it in a row, I will know what each of them actually do and we will make a deep dive on how to use each of them. We also have these Hexie Zebek hovercrafts, so very excited to see what they do and how they look. And those look like the crown tanks, but actually it is supposed to be some Chinese SRS landing troops, so the little round ones. Let's have a look at them inside. As always, if you like this type of content, and we try to produce as many as possible, so you know what to buy, what to build, and how to play and how to expand, do give us a thumbs up if you do like it. It really helps. And if you leave a comment, it helps even more. And you gain a ticket when we reach 1,500 subscribers. There is going to be two winners during a live. One of them is going to win a massive Union fleet, and another one a vast Covenant armada. If also, something I don't say enough, if you're not subscribed yet, do subscribe. This is first of all the best metric for us to try to say like, yeah, we are a good channel, please do give us some stuff to cover. And also the more subscribers we have, the faster we have the winners for the two fleets. And as soon, of course, as this contest is finished, we will start another one. All right, without further ado, let's open the box. All right, so it's one of the smaller boxes that you can have. So it's about 54 euros. You have minus 10% if you buy on MyBPlace, of course, as always. And it helps the channel in the process if you do that. So the resin, we take a look at the end, as always. You do have some SRS tokens, obviously for the landing vessel that you can have. You do have 8 SRS tokens, which makes me think about, sorry, because the Heilong, so the alternate version of the Ergun, is also a massive landing vessel. So of course, if at least one version is a landing vessel, and it makes sense since you do have those in the sprue, it means you will not have enough, because Heilong needs 4 or 3 or 4, and you need 2 per cruiser, so you would run out of little tokens. It should be fine because you should have already way too many tokens. But if every box that I receive, I start to say like, you don't have enough, but it should be fine. Well, no, it actually should be fine, because you don't glue everything on every token. It's not how it works. So you will always start to accumulate more and more black tokens. So in the end, after a couple boxes, you will have enough. Even if you play 3,000 points games, which is really massive, you will have enough tokens. So no drama to have here. All right, enough talking. Let's have a look at those sprues. I will zoom a little bit because those are brand new. So we can see this very nice token, like textured. So you can put the tanks inside. Let me have a look. Where are the tanks? All right, those are actually the tanks, and I wouldn't have recognized if we didn't see them already in Armored Clash. Those are the round things going very much forward, like kind of like unstoppable ball of death. It seems that it will be the theme of the Chinese, because as you have seen, we had the teaser for the giant land ship of the Chinese in Armored Clash, and it seems to be basically an orc battle wagon, or let's say more like a juggernaut in the Clone Wars, like some kind of like very big truck with kind of like a landmore in the front and flamethrower. So just not really a command ship, but more like a missile that just breach the enemy lines. And those tanks also seem like this is exactly what they do. They don't stop, they just keep rolling and they breach the enemy lines. It seems that the Chinese will be very much offense oriented. I just realized, but this is a Chinese escort. Oh my god, okay. I didn't think they were coming since we had the Japanese escort already, which have some special rules, but okay, we have those. They are adorable. Oh my god, look at those. Okay, we have only one Chinese escort in the box. It was not advertised at all, actually. and I'm quite happy. So you're gonna have 2 Chinese escorts in total with this Ergun Battlefleet set. That is a good surprise. You can obviously make some cruisers. We will talk in the Tacticas all the different versions. Some of them have flamethrowers. You can see that we finally have this heavy Qiang, so the flamethrower. We have some cranes, like repair cranes, lots of weaponries. Second heavy Qiang, so that is good. You're gonna have 4 in total. This is the heavy Qiang. Well, you can see they're the same. This is the third version. Okay, we can see it from the bottom. Okay, and the third version, you have only 1 of them. A little bit sad. You have this Zebek, so the mass 1 ship, also looking very cute. Lots of gun batteries here, the basic one. You should have some rocket batteries somewhere, don't you? Oh, this is the seismic mortar I was about to call. That's for the Russian. This is the corrosive mortar, the small rocket battery, 1 single heavy rocket battery there, and I don't think you have any heavy gun battery, unfortunately. Well, not that the Chinese are big fans of this type of weapons, but it's still fine. Oh yeah, this is the part of the Chinese fortification. Or at least, yeah, it cannot be anything else. We don't know what it looks like yet, but it has been teased. Well, it has been teased that basically every nation is going to have its own fortification, like at least every macro faction will have it. So the Union, the Crown, the Empire, etc. So we know, for example, the Union has this Talon SRS token that they can send from a distance. Great. The Crown one can generate Guardian points. Great. Those, I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe have some boarding. No, probably more Persian thing. Maybe they will have some flamethrowers. We will see in the second part of the video what they actually do. We're going to have a look at the resin, and this is a bit weird. This is the first time ever in Dystopian Wars that we have twice the same flagship, because yes, there are 2 variants, but we already have this flagship, so I will check if it's the same. At least I can say a few things. Yeah, it's exactly the same. So the head of the flagship, this was the Heilong, so the main name, and this is the Ergun, the landing ship. One thing to note, it was very easy to magnetize those, so you can switch between one or the other. So you can switch, like, the good thing is, like, you will be able to have 1 Heilong and 1 Ergun easily in your fleets. If you already bought twice the Heilong Battlefleet set to have each variant, then a little bit sad. Though this could be very much part of the fortress, like it looks like a giant door. And yeah, as always, if you have some bits that you don't use for some reason because you have them twice and you're sure you will not use them, do use it to make some terrain, because Dystopian Wars is one of the games when you can really go crazy with the terrain, because you just need the footprint kind of the islands, and that is going to be it. Oh my god, just notice like how good this shielding looks there. It looks better than in my memories. I didn't remember having the little dragons there, but I don't think they can easily change the resin cast, can they? I don't know. If you know, tell me in the comments. Can they make some adjustments, like over 6 months later, to their resin cast, I guess they have, to add some little details there, to change a little something? Or is it like once it's made, you're gonna have only the same miniature going out like forever, let's say? Do let me know. I'm quite interested in this. So integrated magma generator right there, 2 turrets here. You're gonna have the Heilongs there, and absolutely not the Heilongs. You can have the Qiang. Sorry, it's the heavy Qiangs for the Heilong. So, as you can guess, I did not learn any Chinese. I'm very sorry for the pronunciation if it's bad. Like, I'm sure it's bad, but if it's very bad, I'm very sorry. Yeah, you have all these. Oh my god, the level of detail of this. Those are for the broadside. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Don't you want to paint this to the highest standard possible? I don't know. Probably you should put some contrast on this, because the level of detail is going to be too difficult. Like, you just put the contrast inside and let the liquid go where it's supposed to go so it looks good. But yeah, the level of detail in the resin is insane. I will share here that I was a little bit disappointed in the flagships for Armored Clash, especially the Chinese one. I like the theme, I like the appearance, but it seems to me that it has less details than this, for example. I mean, you see this, like, this is a ship with so much detail. The scale maybe is better for this, but I mean, look at this. This is lovely. Probably I'm just saying bad things for nothing, because it's prototype. They brought to the Adepticon, and it's gonna look amazing once we see the final version. But I just want to note that for now, I'm not 100% convinced. And you remember when I said that there is no heavy gun batteries on the sprue? Well, they know you might want some heavy gun batteries, so they brought some resin cast one in there. Well, that is cute, and that is nice. You have 2 of those, because that's all you can put on the Heilong, and the little very nice dojo for you to put if you make the boarding version. Cute. And as always, just paint this and put it on an island. It's gonna be very cute. And yeah, okay, there were all 3 of them on this, and they just broke apart. Okay, happens, but yeah. Well, at least the pieces themselves are not broken. All right, well, let's have a look of how to build this box, with how to play each of the variants, which variant you should play. We already covered the Heilong and the Ergun previously, but it was a while ago, and there is a new Chinese like Empire orbit. So we'll talk about this first, and then all the different Chinese cruisers that you can have in this new sprue. And at the end, we are going to cover the how to expand after this box. Okay, we are now in the Tactica part of the video, which is usually the longest. And in this one, we're gonna see each variant of the new Chinese support sprue. And yeah, there's quite a lot to cover, so let's dive right in. As a reminder for the playstyle, first of the Empire as a whole, the Empire has very specific and thematic nations, a little bit like the Alliance, and they each have their own roles. The Koreans, which are not there yet, are specialized in air power. The Japanese are basically the naval force of the Empire. They have very tough ships with very good stat line, but not so many tricks except deceptive deployment, which is this new redeployment trick. They're very good. And the Chinese, they have 2 things they do very well. They are the landing forces of the Empire, because they have the most of the ground forces. For example, we know now that in the starter set of Armored Clash, the ground warfare version of Dystopian Wars, the Chinese are going to be there because they represent most of the Empire's ground forces. And the second thing they have is that they have a lot of flamethrowers, a lot of alchemical weapons, and they play with alchemical a lot more than the Japanese. So that is the Empire in a nutshell. You probably know them already if you play the game, but otherwise know that the Chinese want to be at point blank most of the time because of their flamethrower templates, their Qiang, which is the name of their weapons, or they also are quite good with the corrosive mortar, which is another alchemical weapon. They're usually quite cheap, they're not crazy good ships, but they're good for the price. And they're quite lethal. They're a little bit like the Russians, like they're cheap and good for what they do, except the Russians are more defense oriented, and I would say the Chinese are cheap and good at what they do, but they're more offense oriented. Little reminder of everything that you get, that we just unboxed. So you get this assault battleship that you can build as the Ergun, as the name says, or as the Heilong if you want. You get right below me the Yanshi Firebase, this mass 2. We will see it's quite good. The first time I really like fortification. 2 of the Chinese support cruisers. Again, lots of different variants. As you can see, like there is like 6 different variants. We will talk about each of them. I will try to not go too long to not make the video go through over an hour like the last one we did. You have 2 Chinese Hexie Zebek, which are the small hovercrafts. They have easy profile, will go faster over them. And finally, you have 2 Chinese escorts, the adorable ones, just escorts. Do note that the escorts are getting cheaper and cheaper in the game. In our environment, in our meta, we play them free because we try to have beautiful fleets. But they used to be like 8 or 10 points per escort, and now in all the orbits they start to be more like 6 or 5 points per escort, which is good because more escort makes for more beautiful tables. Finally, you have the landing ground forces token for the Empire, for the Chinese more specifically, and well, they're ground tokens. We don't have the rules yet as I record this video like 10th of May, but do note that the models actually are literally the ground tanks of the Chinese in the Armored Clash, just on a different scale. So that's really cool because it will lead to some narrative campaign that we probably will do, where you start in Dystopian Wars, you make a landing, and then you continue with Armored Clash. And at least for us, we'll continue after Armored Clash at a smaller scale with the War Machine models and rules to represent our different armies. And the last thing that we will say is that this box is 54 euros, which is actually quite a good price for what you get, especially like you have the Mass 3 battleships, usual, you have 2 cruisers, usual. you have only 2 frigates where you sometimes have 4 in other packs, but in exchange for the 2 small frigates, you have 2 escorts, 2 ground tokens, and this massive fortress just below. So that is actually a great deal, a great quantity of different units that you get for 54 euros. And despite it being basically the cheapest box that you can get for Dystopian Wars, except the flagship-less support squadrons that you can buy, despite being cheap, you do get a lot. And if you go through my hobby place, first of all, you get minus 10%, and if you choose us in the list, we get a little percentage back, and it gets you this whole box for less than 50 euros, which is great. Alright, we will start with the Ergun Assault Battleship, 282 points, so actually quite up there in terms of battleship cost, but we'll see that it does a lot. It has armor 8, citadel 16, so good battleship stats right there. 10 hull points in battle ready before it gets crippled, and then it has another 4, so again, tough. ADV of 10, amazing. SDV of 7, and the little cherry on the top, because it's a landing ship, so full of angry, like, I don't know, ninjas, I guess, from the name. It has a fray 16, which is huge. And that's the first thing they will say. This thing transports 3 ground tokens, already great. It will reach where it wants to be because damn, it's tough. And when it gets within range, it will be a huge threat with a fray 16. It can have up to 3 escort tokens for +5 each. You probably will do that because first of all, you already have tokens in this box, but you will go easily, very cheaply to fray 19, SDV 13, SDV 10 and ADV 13, which is crazy stats for still less than 300 points. Fray 19, but you also have this rule that I put all the way on the bottom left, Lingi Shadow Jumpers, which makes me think that basically the boarding troops are shinobis. It gives you a reach of boarding of 6, amazing, because you do want to be boarding as soon, as often as you can. And secondly, you get all the assaults gain alchemical. Alchemical has some complicated rules, I will not go too much in the details, but the big combo with this is that it also has alchemical conflagration, which means that any actions, and boarding is an action, made by this model with alchemical or hazardous quality gain devastating. So it means your boarding are going to be fray 19 at 6 inches, alchemical and devastating. You're probably putting a carnage result on basically anything you target. This thing is a huge devastating beast in boarding, plus it's a landing vessel, plus it has quite a few weapons. Like, I mean, look at it. It has an inbuilt magma generator, which can pop some volcanic islands. Fun, can be useful sometimes, but especially can use it as a weapon, kind of like as a cryo generator, but not the same style, but kind of like the cryo generators of the Russians. Again, very good. It also has 2 heavy gun batteries to the front, that is good. 2 small alchemical rockets to the back, this you don't care. You can replace it with gun batteries if you want to make a broadside, okay. But you can also, and this is interesting, replace one of your 2 heavy gun batteries, and maybe that's what you want to do. You can replace one of them with a generator. Which generator is the big question? I would say maybe Shroud, to make it even tankier, because it's a landing vessel and it wants to get boarding, so it will attract a lot of firepower. It will help for sure to have a Shroud. The new repulsion generator is quite fun as well. You don't need it as well because you're already quite tough and you're a big ship, so extra movement, extra shenanigans is great, even though you're already quite agile because of contra-rotation. Still, it's great. +2 SDV, +2 ADV we always take, but I would still prefer Shroud. And finally, you can go with a Fury. It gives you a little bit of speed more, which is fine. You're already speed 9, it's including the mass drift, so that's already fast. But especially again, +4 Fury. It means that if you have all the right combos, like a Fury and everything, you're gonna be... I don't even want to count. I think you're gonna be fray 23 at this point. It's a bit overkill, I think, the Fury generator on this guy, because you're already putting Carnage, so you don't really care. Okay, you can really put a lot of things, and it's such a great ship. It has a heavy program on top of it, so if you get close enough for boarding, maybe you're even close enough for a ramming, and with hull 10 plus the heavy program, like, you can do a lot of damage with that. Overall, this thing is basically a missile. You're gonna throw it at your opponent head on. Either you're gonna land on something on an island once you have the rules, or you're gonna just go straight at the center of the enemy fleet. You're gonna ram something, you're gonna use your heavy broadside left and right, You're gonna board everything you can, shoot everything you have, and you have hammer sweep as well, I forgot. But yeah, if you go straight, you're gonna be even faster and you're gonna ram even harder. And if you finish ramming with counter rotation, you can pivot a little bit while you're in the middle of the enemy fleet and just go again at another enemy. This thing plays a little bit like a Scandinavian, I have to say, which is great. It's a Scandinavian but tough and expensive, let's say. But I absolutely adore the Ergun Battleship. It's very fun to play with, of course. It's very fun to play against, actually, because yes, it's tough, but it's not unkillable. And you will just see this giant thing running at you, and you will just shoot everything you have with this missile charging you. And yeah, it's gonna be fun. Overall, great for the point cost, not unkillable. It is expensive, so it is an asset, but it's well priced, it's fairly priced, and it has so many fun rules that, yeah, it is going to be a centerpiece for your Chinese surface fleet, and I love it. The other version, which is the Heilong that we've seen a couple times on the channel, it is basically Ergun that doesn't have a landing vessel, sad, doesn't have the crazy fray boarding shenanigans, but still has fray 12, so not nothing either. It still has Yanshi shadow jumpers and alchemical conflagration, so it's still going to be fray 12, but alchemical and devastating as well, so a little bit less overpowered, but still very good, You can also make the tokens as well. This guy might want actually to get the Fury this time, to replace one of its heavy gun batteries with a Fury to be even faster, though you don't have hammer sweep, neither the pro-am, so be careful. But it will bring you back up to this fray 16, so you can have the best of both worlds. Or maybe you want a Shroud, because that's always good to be tough. But what do you trade? Like, you don't have such crazy good boarding, you don't have landing vessel, you don't have a heavy pro-ram, you don't have a hammer sweep. What do you get in exchange of this? Well, let me tell you, you get this absolutely massive heavy Qiang at the front of the vessel, these two massive flamethrowers, and as you can see, the profile is absolutely insane. I don't know if I can zoom, no, I cannot zoom, sorry. But this thing only shoots at point blank, so little trick here, we'll talk about how to use it best a little bit later, but it's insane. The easy to use profile, so at 10 inches, like at the other, like without using a template, is 10.5. So at the worst case, you're gonna have 15 dices if you target the same target, gunnery, okay, alchemical, hazardous, and devastating because of alchemical conflagration. That's already great. Or 2 different attacks at 10 dices, devastating. Also still very good. What you can do though, and maybe should do, we'll think, is to put this up a notch and actually replace one of the heavy gun battery with a generator, okay? Another one of the heavy gun battery, because you replace it with a third heavy Qiang, and then it's a whole new lemonade. You can make 3 attacks at 10, you can make 1 big attack at 20, or, and this is where it gets insane, those 3 heavy Qiang that you will have, they have another attack, which is the gout version, which is the one right here, which is a template, a torrent, so flamethrower template, okay, a big torrent, not the small one, so good. It is 9.4, so start to think like 9.4, quite good. Torrent, okay, alchemical, devastating thus, and fusillade. Fusillade meaning you reroll all the blues. That is oppressive. That is basically you telling any pack of mass ones, you're dead. You can put 3 different templates if you want, if you have different packs of mass ones. Because 9 dices, fusillade, devastating, torrent, except maybe Citadel 13, which do happen, but even them, they're quite threatened. You're pretty sure to obliterate any mass one that is under your template. And you can put 3 templates, so this guy obliterates everything, or you can put everything in a template, plus there is, for example, a big battleship in the middle, and then you can just combo everything, and it's gonna be something like 17 dices, again, torrent, fusillade, etc. So you're putting quite some damage, for sure Citadel, maybe you can aim for a 3rd point of damage or something, on a battleship, plus of course obliterating everything under the template. Insane firepower, but it's a torrent, it's not even 10 inches because it's a bit shorter. So this guy, it is very threatening, especially in the combo with 3 heavy Qiangs and a Shroud. But you're like, how to best use it? He's gonna have a big target on himself. The Ergun, I like it as a distraction carnifex because of hammer sweep and everything, and you can just charge forward, and I think it's fun. The Rokyong can do the same, and the tip that I'm going to give right now works also for the Ergun. But the Heilong, I've tried it a few times, and what I really like with him is to put him in reserve, which means that you put him in strategic reserve with the generic battle fleet, and then it arrives on the side, probably with a Fury. Then it arrives somewhere, it shoots with its broadside, it shoots with its flamethrower, probably the Gout version, left and right, obliterating few things, and then it boards with its Fury, so it's still about the same power as an Ergun boarding. And then it's there with its Fury, like with all its 10 hull points, and it's very difficult to delete. You can put, if you're naughty, a Qiang cruiser attached with a heavy Qiang, or there are other things we will see in the support that you can attach. But yeah, such a great, powerful battleship. It is, for me, the Heilong and the Ergun, the faction-defining battleship for the Chinese, more than the default box, which is the Ning-Jing, which is great as well. But this is what the Chinese are all about. Lots of boarding, lots of flamethrowers, and yeah, that's their faction identity, and love both of those guys. Okay, now we go for the Qiang medium cruiser. And this guy is interesting. It's gonna be compared to the Jian, so the one from the frontline Sprues. I know someone told me the right way to pronounce the Jian. I completely forgot. I think the Jian is pronounced Qian, and this one, I don't know. I'm sorry, I really don't speak Chinese. If you know how to pronounce the Jian and the Qiang, let me know in the comments. The Qiang, thus, is an interesting ship. It has inbuilt heavy war Qiang for 95 points, okay. 2 small gun batteries, one to the front, one to the rear. They can all shoot on the side, so it's more like a broadside ship, unlike the Jian, which had its flamethrower only forward. So that is an interesting distinction. And it's basically an alternative Jian. I will not tell you one is better than the other. I know there has been some debate on the Discord. For me, both are good. It depends on what you want to do with your ship. But with the front line, I really like the Jian, which can be attached. The Qiang cannot. And if you have support sprues, I think you have better options than the Qiang. The Qiang is, I think it's pronounced Qiang, whatever. The Qiang is good, 95 points, 1 flamethrower, 2 gun batteries that you can upgrade for free for chemical rockets, fine, or corrosive mortar, interesting. But you have better to do. It's not a bad choice. If you bring it on your list, it's fine. You're not shooting yourself in the foot at all. It's just an opportunity cost of the, like, in real life money, not about the points. 95 points for this is great. But it's just like, if you build Qiang with your support sprues, you don't build the other variants, which are really, really good and really fill a spot in your Chinese list, then the other ships in the front line cannot. So Qiang, good ship, but I prefer the other with the support sprues. We will talk with something that is already interesting, the Wuhan repair cruiser. 70 points, so cheap. It is attached, it has no weapons except the broadsides. Okay. It has advanced repair facility 2. Interesting to attach, for example, to a Yangtze artillery flagship for the Chinese that will stay all the way to the back. That is the main way to do it. If you attach it to a ship that will throw, like, charge forward, I would attach something else. But do note that this guy can be attached not only to a flagship, but to any squadron. So it's good to attach to your expensive squadron of Chinese ships, whichever they are, to start to repair left and right. It also has mine layer, so for 70 points it starts to be quite good, and shallow draught, which is fine. Maybe means it can accompany very easily some frigates, but overall, again, not a bad choice. Advanced repair facilities 2 is always appreciable, plus mine layer, and it's 6-2 with a 4/4 hull points, so tough for the points. Good ablative wounds, especially if you attach some frigates. You can keep this guy in front of the frigates to kind of block line of sight for your frigates, and they can hide behind. It is a possibility, or even your normal cruisers can hide behind, depending on what you want to shoot at, etc, etc, but it can be fine. For 70 points, it's not a bad choice, but I do prefer the other support cruiser that we'll talk about right now. And as you could hear, the sound was getting worse and worse. I have no idea why.
Well, I was recording from my bedroom because my wife was working in the main room, and I don't know, maybe I touched something, but at some point I lost completely the audio feed. So yeah, I'm gonna have to re-record this part. It's okay. So we were talking about the Lantau. The Lantau is also a very, very interesting ship, and actually one that I prefer even more. The main reason is that it's even cheaper. It's like 58 points. It has a gun battery to the rear, which is not nothing. I mean, it can support a little bit, or even on its own, it can sometimes make a little point of damage, maybe, like always good to take. And it has rules that I love. It has a logistical support, and maybe with the Chinese, you will have a source of logistical support, especially if you take a Yangtze, for example. We'll talk about it in how to expand. But if your Yangtze gets destroyed, or like if you don't bring a Yangtze, it can happen as well. It's always very good to have at least one source of logistical support. You know, I repeat it every time. It's also a card game, and it's important to have more cards than your opponent. It can really be have a huge impact. It also has useful freight, which means that those cards that you will have, you can check them when you activate the Lantau to, if it's not a card that interests you, you can throw it away. And if you see that it's an interesting card, for example, double activation, you can even plan for the next turn with this. So very good ability to have. And yeah, it's all the usual things like title search, mark of Yama, all these things, including shallow drought as well. So lots of like a quite good package for, again, the main interest here is like it's 58 points. It's very cheap, even just as I don't know, ablative wounds for your ship. Like you can use it as a human shield to protect your smaller ships. Like I don't know, if you have some gongs, for example, the destroyers, you can hide the gongs behind the Lantau that's gonna pivot to be at the horizontal. It can pivot easily with counter rotation, and you put your destroyers just behind, and your destroyers will probably be in full reverse or just not moving with counter rotation or tidal surge, and they will just not move and be an artillery piece, and they will be hidden by the Lantau, though they will be able to shoot on anything except like on the flagships or Mastery and Plus, basically. And yeah, the Lantau will protect them. So except from aerial units again. But there are so many tricks you can do with such cheap ships that why not to take it? I would, well, I might say this a few times, but I would always have at least one Lantau in your collection as a Chinese or Empire player in general. The Mekong. Now this is also a very interesting ship. Why? Because look at the price, 82 points for a ship at 612, 4/4 all points. Like amazing. Russians are jealous of this, and they're supposed to be the one with the cheap ships. It has a front heavy Qiang, which you can replace with whatever you want for free, but you will not. A rear gun battery on top of this, why not? It's a landing vessel, so this we will see later how important it is, but landing vessel for this price cost, yes, for sure, it's mass 2, so 2 tokens, and it has bombardment torrent, which means that this flamethrower that you have, not only you're gonna reroll blues at point blank because of its rule, like it's fusillade, but also when you target a ground unit or a surface unit, mostly surface, for example, you just come out of strategic reserve, well, damn, those things, they're gonna have basically a full reroll on everything, like on their main weapon, whenever they shoot at surface, and most of the ship is most of the fleets in the game are composed of surface ships. So this is insanely good. Even if you don't want to use it in strategic reserve because like it's a little bit gimmicky and tricky, like it's not very fun for your opponent, you use it as a distraction card effects. Like for 80 points, your opponent will see this guy coming to him, like one or two of the Mekongs, like hide them behind islands. It's easy again because they have contra rotation, and your opponent will really probably go out of his way in order to get a line of sight and to destroy them because he knows that I point blank for 80 points these things delete many things. Like it's a torrent weapon, you can even delete entire squadrons of mass ones. So yeah, huge threat. I will see later on that the Chinese have ways to delete mass ones at long range, and the Mekong is how you delete them at point blank. But yeah, there is no good answer to the Mekong. If your opponent really tries very hard to deal with them, well, you lost a ship at 80 points, whatever. And if he doesn't deal with them, well, when they get at point blank, ooh, he's gonna feel it. And well, this is how to delete your enemy's mass ones at longer range. This is a Diyu Immolation cruiser. It has one Inferno cannon that we've known from the Nakata, like the new Chinese flagship that is a variant of the Ning-Jing. And it's so cheap, 90 points. What the hell? This thing, okay, weakness, it cannot shoot at point blank. Well, whatever, you can have Mekong to cover your weakness at point blank. But this thing has a blast template that is gonna drop either at closing range for 11 dices or at long range for 9 dices, no extreme range. You will have to wait for the next ship for that. So it's a blast, it's alchemical, and because it has alchemical conflagration, it means it has devastating. This thing at long range has a good chance of deleting any mass 1 that is under the blast template. And when it's at closing range, it has very, like, you would be unlucky not to delete any mass 1 that goes under the blast template. This thing is insane. For 90 points, yes, every day. Like, I buy a pack of 4 of those guys every single day. They link good even. Like, this thing is basically a Covenant heavy particle cannon, like on steroid. Like, okay, I exaggerate a little bit because the heavy particle cannon is insane, but it is 90 points. Again, this is an incredibly good artillery ship. It does only this, like it doesn't have any other weapons, but it's such a great toolbox. Pointed at a cruiser squadron, it's great. Pointed at, like, just having one of them will make your opponent be like, okay, I cannot deploy how I want my ships. Either mass 2s, because it might be a critical for them, either mass 1s, it might be instant death. Even if you have 2 Dayus and you link them together, just you have a single battleship in front of you. Well, sucks to be him, because you have alchemical and you're probably gonna make him at least 2 points of damage and a critical damage, plus alchemical, and you have Markavyama. For 90 points, yes, every day. Like, this is an insanely good ship, as good as the Mekong, and they go very good hand in hand. Mekong, point blank, torrent weapon. Diyu, closing and long range, blaster weapon. So good. If you really have to choose, I would say I would take the Diyu over the Mekong if you really ask me to choose, because Mekong is a big threat and I love it, it's very fun to play, but the Diyu, just having one in your list, will make your opponent really rethink his entire deployment strategy. And that's great. And then, you thought it was it. No, we still have more amazing ships. The Yaoji Bombardment Cruiser. This one is priced reasonably. It's 135 points. Okay. That's also because it has not 1 but 2 weapons. And the weapon is, well, you know it. It's basically 2/3 of the firepower of the Yangtze. And you know how good the Yangtze is. Except this guy is a mass 2 cruiser. Like, what the hell? Just buy a second one and you cannot go beyond 2 cruisers because it's artillery cruisers. And you already have basically more firepower than the Yangtze. Okay, the Yangtze can have heavy firepower, true. But does, like, most of the time your opponent will not let you use heavy firepower on your Yangtze, and it cannot do much on this. And it has 2 additional gun batteries, 1 to the front, 1 to the rear. The hell? And it has bombardment gunnery. So obviously the bombard that you have, which are gunnery, alchemical, extreme range, yes, you cannot shoot them at point blank. Those guys are gonna reroll blanks every time you shoot at a ground unit, rare, or a surface unit, like a battleship, a robot, anything. You're gonna reroll blanks. But don't forget, little cherry on the cake, it also applies to your 2 gun batteries. So just a single cruiser that is at closing range on his left or on his right will bring 8 dices rolling blanks. That is good. That is good extra chip damage. It also has spotter if your enemy has shroud, same as the Yangtze. And yeah, for 135 points, this thing is insane. If the Yaoji was closer to the price range of the Diyu, I would be like, yeah, it's more of a choice. Here, yes, it has 2 weapons, so it's going to be 14 dices at extreme range, which makes it, by the way, an extremely good weapon against aerial units as well, for sure. But the Diyu is a blast. Has less dices, yes, but it's cheaper. I think, okay, this is random math, but I think for about the price of 3 Diyu, you have 2 Yaojis, about, give or take. and I would absolutely have 3 Dayus than 2 Yaojis. Not a bad choice at all. It looks very good as well. It has also more gun batteries, so it can do more things than the Dayu. But yeah, I just love blast templates so much because it happened like it can double or triple or quadruple your firepower. While this guy is a sniper of heavy ships, which he does very well, but it's something that you can deal other ways in your fleet with boarding, with ramming, etc., with the dragons and stuff. While the Dayu brings an invaluable utility kit that many factions in the game do not have, which is closing and long range, very powerful blast templates. And we finish with the cruiser-sized ships, and we go with the Yanshi Firebase. I will be quick about it because I'm trying to again make the video below 1 hour. The Yanshi is great for 2 things. It has finally defensive stat lines that make sure it will not cripple as soon as someone looks at it. It's 612, which is better than many of the normal fortifications, 4/3 hull points, so good, and a price to go with it, 65 points. It has forward deployment, as usual, and it has very specific rules, which means that it can become a ground unit. Like you can deploy it on an island, and then it is a ground unit, which is super cool. It's like a drop kip of the Imperial Knights. Like you can imagine the little doors, like they're so adorable. Those very little doors here, dropping some troops, and here it looks like a massive fortress. There are a few ways you could play it. I would not replace the weapons, the main weapon that is on the top, because if you do this, you are very predictable. It doesn't move, obviously, and just broadsides can annoy your opponent, but since you don't move, you can really play around the bubble, except if you start to have a lot of Yanshis, but then like, yeah, it's not good. Even if you want to put a shroud or I don't know, something like this, it's still better to keep your weapon. This thing is meant to absorb some attacks and then just be deleted. I really like it at a cheap point cost. You could try to sell me, for example, yeah, but what if we add some corrosive mortar? Yeah, it's very good. What if we add alchemical rockets to go with the heavy alchemical rockets? Yes, good as well. Especially this last thing, all full rockets is very good because the Chinese with the Mark of Yama can really make it quite obnoxious. That's very good. But apart from this full rocket build, which is cool, and then you probably put it closer to your own drop zone to just make literally a firebase of rockets, which is okay, maybe that's how I would play it because it's cool. But if you want the optimal way, as I see it, you put it probably hidden behind an island or on an island because it's cooler. But and you are immune to torpedoes if you are on an island. If you are a ground unit, I believe. I need to check, but probably you're immune to torpedoes. Anyway, keep it cheap, 65 points. With a weapon like, for example, a heavy gun battery, probably the best, I would say, because you will be annoying in a 20 inches bubble. If your enemy gets too close to you, you will be able to use your broadside at full potentials if he is at point blank, and your heavy gun battery will probably still have good targets within 20 inches. So either keep it very cheap with probably a gun battery, so it will not get intercepted by ADV and stuff. Heavy war Qiang again, probably a trap because you're immobile, so yeah, not so good. Or then you put everything, 1 heavy alchemical rockets plus 2 rockets, makes it expensive, but it's cool and it's fun. Probably not how I would play, but still very fun. Plus 30 points for just 2 small rockets, plus 26 exactly, is really like if you have some extra points, you don't know what to do in your list. If you're a competitive gamer, first of all, if you are a hardcore competitor, what are you doing on Dystopian Wars? It's a very random game because of how the dice works. But second of all, maybe buy more Yanshis because you can again have 2 Yanshis full rockets with the smaller rockets, or you can have 3 Yanshis without any additional small rocket batteries. My choice is made for sure if I have to choose between those. And the last thing that is very cool as well is that if you have 3 Yanshis, nothing prevents you, because you can squadron them, nothing prevents you to put them all in a single squadron and activate them all at once. So 3 broadsides combining together is very powerful, and 3, I don't know, heavy gun batteries or 3 heavy rockets, ooh, that starts to be powerful indeed. Overall, I am very happy of what they are doing with the recent named faction-specific fortifications, because they lean into the identity of the factions, and they are priced well enough so they can, yes, they are immobile, yes, they're a little bit more fragile, but the point cost make it so that they are a worthwhile decision. Like, you will think to yourself, do I put it or not in my list? Because 65 points for this, yes, it will die, but it will annoy your opponent and absorb some firepower while you're boarding ships and your Mekong and stuff are closing up the gap. And we finish with the Hexie over Zebek. This thing, okay, well, not to go around, but there was some discussion with the profile before, but because it didn't have some entire basic things. But let's focus on what it is now at the end of the beta. This thing is 33 points, expensive for MS1, but it pays the scheming premium. Scheming is great, even though the Chinese were already very mobile with contra-rotation, but still, it's a scheming, agile, whatever. It can go over islands, and it makes it easier to pilot. Great. It is only 2 hull points and armor 5. Ooh, that's not great. It is a Zebek, the same as the Italian one. Technically, Zebek is a Mediterranean ship, specifically to the sea of the Mediterranean. Maybe it's just Chinese translation. That's what Stuart told me in private. That's why they even call it Zebek, and European translator call it like this. Okay, fine. The explanation works. And because it's a Zebek, it also has flag barrage too. And that might be its main appeal. Like, you really hide it for the first turn, maybe even the second turn. It brings entire firepower with flag barrage, which is good. And that's going to be it. It has a good weapon, but consider it like a gun battery. Yes, like a gun battery that does not degrade at point blank, and that's the important part. Which means you can get at point blank, and then use your light broadside at full potential. If you have a pack of, I don't know, 6 Hexie Zebek, 6 light broadside is no joke. And then you can still use your flag guns on the same target without degrading, because it's basically gun battery stats. On top of that, it is sustained against aerial units and scheming. So aerial units, you will only be able to target them when they are at point blank, which is a bit sad, because then you cannot shoot at them with your light broadside like at all. Okay, sad. But this thing, it's scheming unit specifically for breakfast, like, for sure. Because a gun battery with sustained on a small ship like this, that starts to be annoying. The thing that makes me a bit sad is that, yes, it has a lot of good rules, but it's expensive for something that will die at a sniff, like whenever your opponent points any gun at it. Like armor 5, 2 hull points, Citadel 10, like, it will die very fast. And 33 points, we are not yet in destroyer price range, but we are in an expensive frigate price range. And it does not have an insane firepower. It's basically, if you don't target scheming units, it's basically a frigate with a gun battery and flag barrage too, which is okay, but not great. It pays the scheming tax. Do make the most of it, like hide your Hexie just behind an island and then use your quite good movement to charge your opponent as soon as you can. Okay, that's it for the review of the units for the deep dive. Now we'll talk quickly about how to expand. It was very difficult to choose between number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is the Ning-Jing Battlefleet Set, the first, I think it was the first box ever released for the Empire in Dystopian Wars 3rd edition. And yeah, while the support, like, it's basically the same box in the composition, like, it's 2 sprues, but it's frontline instead of support, and it's another Chinese battleship, except it's the Ning-Jing, which is the more classical version compared to the Ergun / Heilong that we've talked about in this video. The Ning-Jing is a bit boring. Like, it's good. It's a good battleship. It's a bit boring compared to the other variants. It does battle things. It goes to the middle of the map. It's tanky. It will shoot around. It has good broadsides. It's stealth. Okay, it's a battleship. It's a good battleship, but nothing special. Now, there are 2 variants that you can build because the box was updated recently. Make sure you have the latest. I don't know if you can check how it works, but the recent sprues have some extra Inferno cannons that allow you to make another version of the Ning-Jing with, well, I think it's Nakara, whatever. the Inferno version of the Ning-Jing, which is insanely good. Like, it's very, very good. Even if you don't have the updated sprue, remember that you have Inferno cannons on the support sprues. Yes, that's right. So that really solves quite some issues. And you can use the bits of the Ergun box on your Ning-Jing ship to make this Nakara, and that's great. There is also, and that's maybe even better, the Yangtze, which is amazing. It's, while most of your ships will want to charge, like the Ergun, the Heilong, the Mekong, they will want to charge the Hexie Zebek, they will all want to charge. The Yangtze can stay in the back. It has logistical support. It has, and that's the big thing, it has Fortunes of War. You know how important it is, Fortunes of War. And unlike many multiple ships with Fortune of War, which unfortunately are kind of like assault ships, and thus they get crippled fast because they're very big priority target for your opponent, and then you lose Fortune of War as soon as you cripple. The Yangtze wants to stay all the way to the back, probably with a repair ship attached because it wants to stay alive, and to use heavy firepower every turn. Remember, it also has logistical support, so you have more cards to shoot with its 3 Ergun Bombard. So if you use heavy firepower, there's going to be like 27 dices. It has Bombardment, so it's going to reroll blanks. Starts to be oppressive against basically any big ship, any battleship. It has Spotter as well, so even shrouded battleships are going to take the pain. Of course, aerial units hate it. Aerial dreadnoughts, flying aircraft carriers, everything hates to be targeted by a Yangtze. It's a great ship. Other than that, you get 2 frontline ships. We talked about the Zhan. There are a few variants. They're good. Like, I will not make a deep dive here. Many options. The Zhan that can be attached is great. You probably want at least one Zhan to attach to your Ergun or your Heilong, whichever. But you will want one Zhan for sure. And then a few good options. They are all quite cheap and okay with what they do. They're good with flamethrowers around, and yeah, good ships all around. And then you have 4 Shanghai frigates. Those you can either make 2 separate activations. If you have 2 battle fleets, you can have 2 Shanghais, and that makes very cheap activations that you can use to contest some objective or just to gain some time turn 1 if you don't want to make the first move because you're a little bit hidden and you want your opponent to expose himself first. Great. And if you put 4 Shanghai together, that starts to be a respectable amount of firepower, especially since you will see we have more ways to get Shanghai in the how to expand. And the second great way to expand, I love this set very much, is the Zhanmadao Battlefleet Set. This is, again, great box. It completes very much what you want to do with the Ergun Battlefleet Set. There are 2 very different ways to play the Zhanmadao, which is basically a flying Forbidden City, and its 2 Sky Bastions. I will start to describe the Sky Bastion because the Zhanmadao can go into either gameplay. We have a full video where we explain how to play with the Zhanmadao, so have a look at this if you want a deeper deep dive. But basically, there is a Sky Bastion, so it's, if I point it with a mouse, this guy here is a Sky Bastion, and the Zhanmadao itself is made of 4 Sky Bastions glued together. So there is one Sky Bastion which sends SRS tokens. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's basically a flying aircraft carrier that is quite tough, very slow, but you don't care, you launch your SRS tokens at 40 inches. Okay. And the Zhanmadao also is a great SRS token Firebase, and altogether they're going to have a lot of flag barrage. They're immune to torpedoes, so they're very hard to deal with, and the Zhanmadao has a great shield. It has a name variant that is interesting as well, but especially like it has a great like bubble shield, let's say, and it has mass 5 shield, which is very rare. So great ADV. Good luck getting rid of the Zhanmadao if it stays all the way to the back with 2 Sky Bastion, and it's going to be like an insane number of SRS. Really, really good aircraft carrier. Or there is another Sky Bastion, which is actually a landing vessel. It's very slow, but if you do this, you have, like, I don't see any other way to play it. You have to put it in strategic reserve. Then turn 2, you arrive in the rear of your opponent, probably with a Zhanmadao with a full flamethrowers all around. All of them, you upgrade them, like it's free, I think it's an alternative build, with flamethrowers. So the Zhanmadao and the 2 Bastions will gonna have 360 broadside that are actually flamethrowers. You start to see where we're going, and you replace the main gun battery on the top with actually a interface generator, which means that not like the main benefit you get is that they can teleport at the end of the turn. They go back in reserve, and then they activate again within 20 inches of the token where they disappeared before. So it completely solves the problem of them being very slow. And then you have these teleporting, very tough ships that are great at boarding and you will put them exactly where they need to be. It kind of cancels the fact that Dystopian Wars is a movement-based game usually, but you will just drop them exactly where they need to be, so they really shoot with all their broadside, like 4 broadside on each and every single side, and then you will board stuff. You've seen it in one of our latest battle report, which is the Siege of Tortuga, and you've seen how devastating a Zhanmadao that appears in the middle of your fleet can be. And yeah, this is just an insane combo, and the Scalibration do the same. And of course, in the box, you have some Empire SRS tokens, and it's 60 euros because you have, well, basically 6 sprues. So it's 10 euros per sprue, quite a good price, and it's really, really good. Like for this price, you have a beautiful. You've seen how they are looking at battle report. Those ships are beautiful. They are centerpiece to your Chinese fleet. They are quite cheap. You get just what you need. You don't get like you sometimes have with these massive centerpiece models, like a lot of extra ships you don't want. You pay exactly for what you need. You have this, they're gonna look amazing, and you can play them depending on your mood or your list, either as very long range air support or as teleporting, flamethrowing machines of death. What's not to like? Between the Ning-Jing and the Zhanmadao, I cannot tell you which one to take. Really, both are amazing. I would say take both. But if you're on a budget, it really depends on your mood, like on what you prefer. Flying air castles or more of the same like frigates and cruisers and battleships that will really look like they're a cohesive fleet because they really look together alike. Depends what you want. You want an air plus naval fleet or a full naval fleet, depends on you, but both options are amazing. And finally, the last one, also very good and cheap options, I only recommend cheap options for some reason today, is the Heilong Battlefleet Set. And yeah, this thing is, well, it's basically the previous box where we had the Ergun / Heilong. It does mean that you're going to have a second time the same battleship. You can magnetize them, of course, as always, that's what I recommend, but it means you can have one Heilong and one Ergun. Very good, for sure. One of them can be in the center of the map, another one in reserve. Or you can have 2 Erguns, depending on the map. Like, it's always very good. They're great ships, both of them, as we have seen. And if you put both of them as distraction carnifexes in the center, it's gonna be difficult for your opponent to deal with that. You have 2 more Shanghai frigates, so again, on their own ship activation. If you have a Ning-Jing Battlefleet Set, it's gonna be a pack of 6 you can make. And that's oppressive, starts to be. And the Gong Destroyers, it's the one combo we talked about. They are basically artillery support. They got nerfed because they were the best mass 1 of the game. They are still very good. Usually you play them with corrosive mortar or with rocket barrage. Usually more corrosive mortar. Only 2 is a good activation that can make a point of damage or 2 if you're lucky at long range. Great. And if you start to pile up the gongs, they can really be oppressive. Finally, last but not least, is a Tianlong Draconic Colossus. Now, this thing, let's be precise, there is a box where you can buy 3 Tianlongs and thus 6 Gong, which is a good box as well. 6 Gongs as well, 3 Tianlong is great. But I think that the Tianlong only once makes the effect on your opponent that you want, because you can have Cloud Dive with this guy, which means at the end of the deployment you will be able to move it within 20 inches of the enemy's deployment zone, if I'm not mistaken. You will be obscured, great, for the first turn. And if you play with aerial terrain, you can hide it behind islands and stuff, or clouds, yes, depends how you make aerial terrain. If you really don't have much terrain, you can say that some of your bigger islands are aerial terrain, or you can just put, I don't know, cotton on a stick and say it's a cloud and it's aerial terrain as well. Or if you're motivated, make aerial islands, as you've seen on the channel. And just 1 Tianlong, as I said, is a big threat. It will make your opponent be like, okay, I need to be very careful how I deploy because I have this threat. 1 Tianlong is a threat, 3 Tianlong is a bit overkill. Yes, they're going to obliterate everything, but it's a lot of points for, and it's not going to annoy more your opponent than just a single Tianlong. You will probably hit a battleship and make some criticals and boarding. You can, I will not go make a deep dive, but you can make a boarding version, you can make a flamethrower version, you can have a heat lancet in the front, in the rear. There are a few options, all of them are quite good, depending on what you prefer. Do you prefer boarding, do you prefer shooting? Flamethrowers is always amazing, because it annoys even more your opponent for his deployment. And yeah, if you want to buy the Tianlong Battlefleet set and have lots of dragons, power to you. Maybe always consider that to attach them in the battle fleet that can be in strategic reserve if you go to a tournament, for example. This way, if there are no aerial terrains, put them in reserve so they are safe. And otherwise, yeah, just have fun. 1 dragon, 3 dragon, 4 dragons, all of those is always going to be fun to play. Your opponents, it's gonna be fun for him as well because he's gonna see it coming turn 1. He's gonna be like, okay, how can I handle this? Yeah, everybody's gonna have fun, and they look amazing as well. I really like the appearance of these draconic colossi. Okay, it's been a long one. Thank you for having stayed all the way until the end. Again, sorry for the sound problem. I will try to solve it for the next time. As always, if you enjoy this type of content, give us a thumbs up. It really helps. I see that we have around 50 to 60 likes every video. It's really good. Thank you to everybody that does it every time. And to those that don't, it just takes you a little second and it really helps us to be visible to more people. As I've said a few times, if you give us a comment, you can win an entire armada, and we're getting closer and closer every day. I see the number of subscribers growing, like every week we reach a new threshold, and it's great. As always, if you're not a subscriber yet, do subscribe because, well, the sooner we reach 1500, the sooner 2 people will win those very nice prizes. Share with your friends, etc. Tell them to subscribe as well. Maybe tell them to comment. Maybe they will win battle fleets. And until the next video, take care of yourself, guys, and remember to keep things fair in love and war games. Bye!